So there we have it, another year is coming to a close and we, as usual, have a ton of Star Wars content that we've had to digest throughout. Rather than sit by and do nothing like the original plan was, I felt like a more fun idea would be to sit down and look at everything that this year had to offer and give my thoughts. So for a few of these, my thoughts are already online, whether it be on this channel with the likes of Obi-Wan Kenobi, or on TikTok where I was briefly covering ANDOR for the first 8 or so episodes. I don't intend on spending far too long on each one, as I do still want to make this video a reasonable length. So with that in mind, hello viewers, welcome back to Media13, and let's get into the yearly roundup. The Book of Boba Fett is a show that upon releasing my video on it last April, I've probably thought about it a grand total of twice. There was once when I thought about how much better Obi-Wan Kenobi was, and then there was this other time where I thought about how much better ANDOR was. Now technically this did premiere in 2021, but with 6 of the episodes premiering in 2022, and the fact that I own the channel and I make the rules, I'm including it here. I still stand by most of what I said in that video too. Watching it back, I still think I'm hung up on the same issues. I mean, it's paced horribly and has no idea what it wants to be. As a separate segment, the Mandalorian stuff is cool. Honestly, some of the best stuff we've seen in Star Wars TV. Ahsoka and Luke were cool, but sort of unnecessary, and the reunion between Din and Grogu has single-handedly killed any excitement I had for Season 3 of The Mandalorian. However, I do think that with a Season 2, this show could redeem itself. Around a third of Season 1 tried to be this Boba Fett soul-searching story. You know, this identity search as he adjusted to this new life that he found himself in. Season 2 has to be the same to an extent if we get one. It has to be a complete reset. The show needs to figure out itself, what it wants to be, not just its character. No cutting away for Season 0.5 of another show. Focus solely on Boba Fett for the entire season. Channel itself, get itself back on track. And honestly, my investment, it is pretty much gone, I will admit that. However, I'm completely open to being recaptured if it's done right. Obi-Wan Kenobi, baby, the only show that I've covered weekly this year from Star Wars. It might actually be the only show I've covered weekly in general on this channel, and I tend to stop them if I'm not enjoying them, so that should be evidence enough. Premiering with 2 episodes on the 27th of May, it ran for 5 weeks and to this day is still everything I've wanted as a Star Wars fan. But it's not without its petty controversy, you know, for every valid criticism you've got someone crying online because of the fact that they used Duel of the Fates in the trailer, but then they used a completely original score for a whole new series. Because that's a thing. Excuse the slight tangent here, but I despise Star Wars fans. And in particular, the way that they would complain if the sequel trilogies did something that they feel devalues the prequels, but then when something like this comes out and doesn't do the same stuff that they are accusing the sequels of doing, it's not good enough. So, like, I don't understand it. Disney can't really win at this point with them, so back onto the show. Personally, I have nothing I can complain about. I loved every second of this thing, and that's not to say that it couldn't have been thinned out. I think part of enjoying something is acknowledging that yes, it is flawed and I can admit that. This absolutely can be condensed into a movie, and someone's actually done that and it's actually really good. Probably better in some cases. It's more fluid and in general a lot more digestible, but I still love this show and I'm not going to let minor inconsequential flaws take away from that. I personally think this show was a tremendous return to form after the Book of Boba Fett. You know, that show disappointed a lot of people for the most part, and I think that Obi-Wan did a great job at rekindling people's faith. There isn't much from a critical level that I can talk about here. I mean, these LEGO specials are always just a little bit of fun. Now, I initially passed on this one entirely, and I only actually came around to it for this video, and I mean, yeah, it's kind of exactly what I expected it to be. It's a very childish, goofy adventure, and I didn't really care for it one way or another. But I'm hardly the target audience for something like this, and I just don't like fun, so I was never really going to jive with this, and that's okay. I really hope that this isn't the extent of the content that we're going to be getting from a sequel's perspective, because I'm not going to lie, I'm already tired of it. I think if I had to battle for a positive and a negative just so this segment isn't entirely wasted, it's this. Positively, the animation for a LEGO short is actually kind of impressive. They really lean into the whole LEGO aspect, and it's honestly a lot of fun, and I can see how this appeals to people. I also appreciate them at least using Finn as a Jedi here, although I wish it was in something more consequential than a Lego short. Negatively, I really do not like the voice actors for Finn and Rey. They both sound like really cheap knockoffs, and I'm not talking like Matt Latner to Hayden Christensen different. I'm talking somehow worse, and I'm fine with it to an extent with Rey because she's barely in the Lego short. But for Finn, who is the main character essentially, it's a lot more noticeable and a lot more off-putting, at least for me. Overall, nothing special. Isn't awful, but it's also something that I'm probably never, ever, ever gonna return to. Next! Cinema, absolute cinema, I do not care. What's that you say? It's a TV show? I don't remember asking. ANDOR is absolutely positively the best Star Wars content we've received since the original trilogy, and I'm saying this as a sequel shill. ANDOR is truly perfection from start to finish, and no words that come out of my mouth are gonna do it justice. But I'm still gonna try. Cassian's the only character from Rogue One that I felt any shred of intrigue with, and the fact that he has his own show and it's of this quality just really pleases me. The acting is phenomenal, the look of the show is just fantastic. I mean, come on, it looks amazing. This looks like a movie, the feel and the atmosphere of this show is off the charts. I love that it cuts no corners in highlighting the harshness of the scenario here as well. Like, it very much muddies the perspective we have of the good fight. Shows us all the sacrifices involved in a situation so taxing. ANDOR has 100% blown me away, and I really hope that the gap between season 1 and 2 passes quickly because God, I need season 2 ASAP. I honestly may revisit ANDOR sometime next year, as I have a lot more that I'd like to say on it. But just know that for now it gets a big thumbs up from good old Media13. Gonna level with people here. This is another one that I initially didn't bother with when it first dropped. Probably a shock to some people, but I'm one of the minority that really doesn't care about the Clone Wars animation style. I don't care for it. When I found out they were making another show set in the prequel era yet again with the same animation style, I'm not gonna lie, I felt as though I was half asleep and stuck in a nightmare. Although eventually, again for this video, I did go and check it out, and I'll admit, I was half wrong about this show. 50% of this show was amazing. I think the Dooku content was fantastic, and the duel between him and Yaddle is honestly one of the better duels in this saga. I think the choreography and cinematography of this thing were fantastic, and overall, Dooku's 3 episodes added a lot to his character and the world. Ahsoka's episodes, however, I really didn't care for. I wasn't even remotely invested in them. It was as if nothing happened the entire time. There was nothing of consequence, no substance whatsoever, and I just wonder why. Ahsoka is quickly becoming one of these characters that I just feel pain all of the time when I see her. I'm going to quickly break down why so it doesn't just come across as mindless hating, because I understand there's going to be some people that think that. Across the Clone Wars and Rebels, absolutely no issue with her whatsoever. Mando, she's just a cameo in a cameo-based season, so, you know, she is a flaw by that. Book of Boba Fett, she is part of the episodes that are the problem with that show, so that's instantly against her. Her show has overtaken what was supposed to be the Rebels sequel, so that can fuck itself based on that alone. And in Tales of the Jedi, because of how crammed, especially this era of her life is, there's nothing more you can do with her. It's meaningless filler. It's not even filler that's entertaining to watch, because like most filler in other shows at least has substance. The Ahsoka part of the Tales of the Jedi series just doesn't. It has none of that. Just makes it all the more confusing that they choose to focus half of the 6 episodes on her. And if that's not enough, they even managed to tie an episode back to Order 66. What the fuck, Dave Filoni? You know, me and you have our issues, but I will admit, I've got nothing but respect for the way you're able to shell that fucking event into every Star Wars thing possible that you work on. Like, I get it. It's one of those, oh my god, so that's how she learned how to do that in that moment in the Clone Wars. When I was watching that, I didn't sit and instantly wonder how that happened or how she learned that. I just assumed she's a Jedi. She knows that shit. I don't need an explanation for stuff like that. I'm gonna move on now because I'm losing my temper here. Fuck Dave Filoni. Now this is gonna be an incredibly brief one because I have absolutely no idea what I can actually say here. Like, when people saw that Studio Ghibli and Lucasfilm were working together on something, I think it's fair to say they reacted pretty positively. And for good reason, these are two titans of the movie industry. You've got Lucasfilm with its Star Wars IP, you've got Ghibli with its breathtaking animation. There were multiple reasons to be excited about this. But then this dropped, and don't get me wrong, animation is fantastic, absolutely stellar. There's nothing wrong with that end, it's just, boy was this disappointing. I don't know what I expected, but honestly it wasn't a project shorter than most end credits in a TV series on Disney+. In fairness, yet again, the animation is flawless, and I would love to see Studio Ghibli tackle a more ambitious project within this universe later on down the line. But for now, this is what we got excited for? Really? Come on, man. And overall, I'd say it's actually been a pretty solid year for Star Wars. I would probably say we've had two stellar projects, two decent projects, a decent but not too bad short, a bad project, and a Lego special that again I really don't feel one way or the other for. Next week I'm going to be doing the same for Marvel, so if you don't want to miss that, then be sure to subscribe to the channel. You can also leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and with all that said and done, my opinion has been stated, and now it's your turn. Before get down into the comments and let me know what you think about this year for Star Wars. My name has been Jordan, this has been Media13, and I'll see you all next week.